Welcome to another MNR Live TV show, and tonight we've got a very special guest. We're going to be talking about Ebola. And before we get to this, let me introduce to you the one and the only, my partner, Mario.
Yes, Robert, it's good to be back. It's good that we have a guest tonight, and it's nice that we're back, and we're excited to talk about whatever we need to know, right? Because we need to know this stuff, and we have to get it out there.
Exactly, and the thing is that we've been hearing about for weeks. We were like on holidays, and I was on holidays, vacation, and I still couldn't do anything. I couldn't relax because I was always hearing about Ebola, and I wanted to come back even last week from vacation just to do a show on it. But I guess we took another week, and now we have more information, and we're going to be getting the one and the only previous guest on our show, Dr. CK Quarterman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for letting me come on here and plug my thoughts on this subject and show folks what I think is really going on and why I think it's really going on. I appreciate that.
Anytime. So first of all, Ebola. From what I know, Ebola's been discovered like in 1976 when it was the first, I think, in Congo. Am I correct?
That's correct. Yes, first it was discovered there. Some of the sketchy things are that the Russians tried to weaponize it and were not able to. It's been known for quite some time, and it's one of the scariest viruses that are out there. As of present, I've counted 7 countries that have had eruptions of Ebola. Generally, the media is only talking about 5 of them, but Ebola outbreaks have been reported in Nigeria, Rwanda, Guyana, Benin, which is a small African country, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guyana. And there seems to be the possibility of 1 case in Romania. This is a scary thing.
Okay. The thing is, it's like they brought back two doctors that were from the United States. They brought them back to the States, right?
They did. They brought back 2 doctors that worked with Samaritan Purse, which was Billy Graham's organization, and took them to Emory University in Atlanta. Now, something that we might want to point out, because it's sort of important for the point that we're going to make tonight, is that when the news showed these people being brought into Emory University, they were encapsulated in plastic. And the ones bringing them in were in, what do they call them, stage 4, suit 4 biohazard suits, meaning that they had their own air supply and they keep a positive pressure in the suit. Now the question is, why was such precaution being taken in bringing these 2 people in the United States? We're being told by the CDC and on their website. I checked with the New York Times and several other Huffington Post and so forth just recently, and every one of them is reporting that Ebola is not airborne. Well, I question that, and I have reason to believe the government is lying about that and are overlooking their very own studies.
The thing is, isn't there different strains to it, like 3, 4 different strains to it? So could one of them be airborne and another one not be airborne?
No, I think all strains of Ebola, except one that comes out of the Philippines, is probably airborne. The strain that we're dealing with in Guyana, Rwanda, Sierra Leone, Liberia is called Ebola Zaire.
Zaire, yes, that's correct.
And there was a study done 2 years ago by our national government, the National Institutes of Health. And let me tell you about this study, because it's crucial to what I'm talking about tonight. I've talked to doctors and so forth, and none of them are informed about this. It seems even the CDC doesn't read its own literature, or they're lying. In 2012, there was an experiment done with Ebola Zaire. That's the same strain that's loose in Africa now, where guinea pigs and piglets, marsupials actually, and piglets were put into cages. And there was no physical contact between these cages. 4 of them were infected with Ebola Zaire and left on one side of the room in cages, and the marsupials on the other side of the room in cages where there was no possibility of direct contact. They couldn't throw anything at one another. The only way that anything could transpire between them would be through the air. And this was in 2012, done by the National Institutes of Health. And sure enough, all of the test group came down with Ebola Zaire. Now, that proves without a question that Ebola Zaire is airborne. Now, my question is the government funded this study and knows about this study. Why are they lying to us?
Perhaps they don't want to cause panic right away.
Well, another question. Why are our borders still open and we're allowing flights in from Africa?
That, I don't know. I find it that's the most ridiculous thing. And also, why are they flying in people that have Ebola into the States? And like in Spain, they flew a priest in Spain, and unfortunately, he died this morning.
Right. And he was on an experimental drug called ZMapp. And it's the same drug that was, now that's also, let me come back to that in a minute.
Okay.
ZMapp was given to the 2 health workers at Emory University, and they are getting better. Now, my guess is this was too far gone, or his age alone, he was 75, his system might have just been overwhelmed. But for you conspiracy theorists out there, and I'm becoming one more so by the moment, this ZMapp drug did not come from the States. It came from Geneva. Which means they have a storage of it in Geneva.
Oh,
we're not being told about that.
I thought it came from the States.
No, it came from Geneva.
My gosh, that's something, you know, and
that means they have been preparing for
yes.
this for quite some time. Ask Mr. Obama if he's got any there for him.
But the secret serum that they gave, they call it secret serum that they gave to the 2 patients, the 2 doctors, they seem to be improving.
Right, it's called ZMapp.
ZMapp, yeah, that's what it's called. And the ZMapp, we don't know if there's secondary effects to it, like long term.
Right, they're not known, but what I find interesting too is as of Saturday, Zambia banned all citizens from Guyana, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Nigeria from entering the country. They just banned them. Now, how come we're still accepting flights from these countries? You know, my question is, you know, what's going on with our government that is lying to us about how lethal this disease is? By the way, it kills about 90% of the people that contract it.
Yes.
And what still hasn't been explained, you know, you were talking about the health workers. So far, by my count, 170 health workers have contracted the virus, even though they have gone to extreme lengths to avoid getting the disease. They dressed head to toe in suits and specifically designed to prevent the spread of this virus. So my question is, how are they getting it then? it must be airborne. And one of the interesting statistics is there's a high statistic of these, I don't know what they call them, they're like taxi cab drivers on a three-wheel motorcycle. The driver sits in the front and the passenger sort of sits in the back. And these are very popular over in Africa, and they're used for taxis. And there's a high percentage of these taxi owners that are coming down with Ebola. And that suggests that their only contact with these people with Ebola have been by air.
So does that mean if it's done by air, that just being in the same room or vicinity, you could get Ebola?
Well, how do you think those marsupials got killed? They were only in the same room as these piglets that had it. That's exactly what airborne means.
This is scary, because I know I researched Ebola in the 1990s when I first began doing this sort of stuff. And I was very, very glad and thankful, and I said, this thing better not come out. But I don't know if you ever heard of the government's controlled by the Illuminati, whatever you want to call it, and they want to depopulate the world for 90%. And maybe this is why they have like these like coffins and everything from FEMA camps ready for something. So could this be it? This plague, this Ebola, is a way to depopulate the world?
Well, it certainly has the ability to do that. And my question is, why are we being lied to by the very government who's done the studies to prove that it's airborne? And why are they not taking steps to shut down the borders? This all looks like that they're just opening their arms saying, okay, fine, come on over here and decimate our population. Now, I don't know who makes these rules and why they haven't done what they needed to do. And I'm going to tell you something else. You know that I'm an author, a writer, a pastor, and a speaker.
Right, yes, of course.
And something else I'm fed up with, and that is the attitude of Christians in this country. I've been making some posts about this, and when I make this post, I link these government studies in there. And I keep hearing all of these things like, well, God's going to protect us. Well, I got something to say to those people. When it rains outside, God doesn't speak to you and tell you to go inside. Your feet took you inside. When you start looking at all these things happening around you, you need to make preparation. Don't just simply sit there and say God's going to take care of you. You're a fool. There was a book written many years ago called Faith, Foolishness, and Presumption. All I can tell you is sitting on your hand saying God's going to take care of you is foolishness or presumption.
I know exactly what you mean. I know some Christians too. They say, what do you worry about this? Why do you worry about UFOs? Why do you worry about the New World Order? Why do you worry about this? They say God's going to take care of it because of the rapture.
Oh yeah, I've got a word from them right out of Proverbs 1:7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction.
In my opinion, I think God would want us to protect ourselves. Yes, He could help us, but He wants us to help ourselves before He helps us. I mean, what kind of people would we be if we just sit around and do nothing and wait for God to do everything?
Well, from my understanding of Scripture, and I've spent a lifetime studying it, my understanding of Scripture is that we are to be prepared. And we're not to go out of our way to worry about things. We're not to go out of our way. But yet, you know, is taking 40 days of food and water and putting that up, is that not trusting God? Well, I think you're stupid if you don't do that. We need to have, I was on my show the other night, and I said we need at least 40 days of supplies, because if this thing hits America, the only way you're going to have a chance to survive is you lock yourself up in your house and you let this thing blow over. Blow over pretty quick, but it's going to take tons of people in the aftermath of it.
The thing is, Doctor, when you mean we have to stay in our house, that means we can't go to our work.
That's right.
And we face losing our jobs or losing our life. I'd rather lose my job than lose my life.
Well, this thing is airborne. Like you said, that means if you're in the same room with somebody who has possibility, millions of people on the globe were killed. Yeah, we called it the Spanish flu. And this thing has more lethal than the Spanish flu. I've been reading statistics. Depending on how conservative the writer is, he will say it kills between 60 and 90% of the people. But there are people in the know out here that are stating it's got a 90% lethality. Now, the flu doesn't even have that.
The H1N1 vaccine, what do you think was in it? Do you think there was like a lot of poisons in it?
Well, I've had a lot of people ask me that.
Yes.
In the vials, they did use a small amount of mercury as a preservative, but in the single vaccine shots, so to speak, that were just single injections, the mercury was not in there. And I don't see, like I said, now I try not to be a big conspiracy theorist.
Right.
I don't see anything going on in these vaccinations and the formulas that they're using where anybody's trying to subvert humanity in any form, shape, or manner. But when I go to the government websites and I found out for 2 years they've known that Ebola was airborne, and yet the CDC has the audacity to lie on their website and say it's not. I just find that I've got to blow the whistle on this.
The thing is, have you ever read the Georgia Guidestones? Have you heard of that?
Uh-huh.
Maybe that's what it is, depopulation. And Prince Philip once said it, and if he could be reincarnated in his next life, he would like to become a virus that will kill 90% of the world.
Well, I sort of have my own conspiracy theory on what's going on, and I'll just share that with you.
Go ahead.
Well, when I'm looking at the fact that the government is lying, that has to come from some of the highest offices. Like I said, poor little me, I can get on the web, I can access these medical studies done by the Institutes of National Health and see they're lying. They haven't even gone through the trouble to take these studies down, so you can't find them. So they don't care.
We can't do anything.
Huh?
We can't do anything, really.
Now, it seems to me that, and I've written about it before, I hope I'm wrong, but there is a strong possibility of several things from a Christian angle. And not everybody agrees with these things, but I'll share with you what I think. I think America is Mystery Babylon. And where better for an Antichrist to arise than from Mystery Babylon? So far, Obama fits all of the description that's needed. Now, what he needs at this point in time is to be able to stay in office. Now, the only way he can do that legally is if martial law comes into effect. So why is he off playing golf and vacationing where we have the greatest thing facing us,
A threat.
a world pandemic, and he's doing nothing about it? I think because it fits into his design. If it hits over here, they will quarantine cities and states. Quarantine. That means you not go to work, they'll just shut everything down. And martial law, he then gets to stay in office. Congress is suspended until he brings it back into force, which I think will never happen. I hope I'm being an alarmist here. I hope I'm seeing things that are years off.
Yes.
But I'm telling you, this really looks bad.
But the thing is, Doctor, doesn't it say that the Antichrist will only be revealed once the Holy Spirit is removed, like from the earth, like we're gone from here? Then the man of sin will be revealed. So we could speculate, but I don't know.
Hold on a minute. The catchphrase is revealed, and that means more than anything else is his coming out publicly.
Okay.
And doing miracles and a whole sort of change of persona. If we are as close as I think we are on the timeline, it means he is alive today.
Oh,
he could be Obama, but he has not unveiled all of his cards. And I think that's something else people entirely misunderstand. The Antichrist will certainly, whether it's Obama or somebody else, will certainly have been in power of some sort for years before he consolidates everything and becomes actually known as the Antichrist.
But the thing is, he's going to have to unite all the world religions, the Muslims, the Jewish, the Christians, into one world religion.
Well, if you read some of my books, you know what I think transpires.
Yes.
Is that he'll have help doing that.
Yes, of course he will.
And it only makes sense there's got to be some kind of a supernatural intervention to cause that kind of thing to happen.
And then we get into different types of scenarios which can happen.
Don't confuse the final, curtain draw with the fact he's probably on the stage today. What would you look at? You'd look at the description in Daniel to see who might actually fit that description. But you won't know, like you said, until later. But he does not have a desire for women. There's been multiple testimonies that he's a homosexual. He is a Muslim. He does not worship the God of our fathers of this country. And, those two things alone make him highly suspect for being the Antichrist.
Okay, yeah, and getting back to Ebola. Now, the thing is, with this serum, I think what they want to do is they want to make mandatory vaccinations, and if you don't take these vaccinations, you'll be arrested. Is that a possibility?
Not at the moment. The serums that are being rushed through at the moment are not vaccinations, but serums.
Oh, yeah.
To be taken after somebody's infected.
Because now apparently they're going to give. I heard today they're going to give the serum to. They're going to send it to Liberia.
Well, from what I understand, they've sent what little they had, and for some of the doctors in Liberia. But they're all saying now the company that makes ZMatt and several others that are in the works. I think there are about 4 companies in the running. They've done supposedly everything they can do, but then that comes into my question earlier: is where did the ZMatt come from that was already in Geneva and didn't have to be taken to Geneva?
Is it possible that this Ebola was man-made in a laboratory in the 1970s or even earlier?
I've looked at the electron microscopy of it. I don't think so. This looks like a natural beast.
And the
swine flu, on the other hand, looks to me to be man-made.
Okay, and if there's different strains to it, how does this happen? Does it mutate, or is it somebody that genetically modifies these viruses?
No, the strains are slightly different. It's a mutation.
Okay. So it's a mutation, and does it mutate into something even more and more powerful?
Let's hope not.
Yeah, let's hope not, because the thing is, I still don't understand why they let these people in, like the borders, and they bring in these doctors. I know the Americans, and But why all of a sudden? Why don't they just keep them there and just quarantine and try to fix the hot spots of the world instead of bringing them here? I find it's a very ridiculous move.
The only reason could be is they want America infected. If they did not want America infected, they would stop the flights to Africa now. They would have already done so.
But, okay, that's understandable. But why do they bring them in? Like, why don't they just bring them in and don't say nothing, you know, and just like the next thing you know, it's everywhere. If they really want to infect people, do they want to cause a panic?
Well, you don't have to worry about the ones that came in like into Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
They came in on a private flight with level 4 decon, and they put them in isolation units. I mean, 1 or 2 people. I think the CDC has 6 or 8 quarantine units across the country. So they could handle a very limited number of people. The problem you run into is when that very limited number of people become a large number of people. 95% of the hospital beds in America are full. And Ebola, with my discussion about it being airborne, a hospital would be the last place you'd want to put them.
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's people that don't even want to go to hospitals in those countries because apparently they said the walls are infected. Don't go there. So these
That's
people.
What they're saying in Liberia right now.
Yeah, they're dying.
People wanting to burn down hospitals because they say that they're contaminating people.
But they're dying on the streets, so they're contaminating people even more. Because they don't go in the hospitals, they just like stay outside, and I guess they get sick and die, and then they contaminate more people.
Well, like I said, if it's airborne, which the study proves that it is, anybody who comes in contact with the person is likely to get it. And that was my question. About 170 healthcare workers who have been dressed and taken precautions. Now, you might could say 1 or 2 of those people slipped, but we're talking about 170 healthcare workers that knew what they were working with have become infected. It all speaks of an airborne virus. And the one thing that, you know, you don't want, think about it, let's turn it around and think about it this way. Think about 1919 and the Spanish flu comes in through America and millions of people die. But yet it's probably only got a 40 or 50% kill ratio. But it is transmissible through the air. Now, you look at 2014 and you've got a virus that is transmissible by air. There is no immunity to it and no cure for it. And it's 90% deadly. Do you see where I'm going?
I see exactly where you're going. Unfortunately.
You're talking about the possibility here. And see, what's been different about this outbreak in Africa than other outbreaks is the other outbreaks were in outlying small villages. They were easy to contain. But these outbreaks have happened in metropolitan areas, i.e., again, because it's airborne. The more people you put together, the more it's going to spread. And the government knows this. And did you bring, just think of Detroit, Chicago, New York City with airborne Ebola. What is it going to look like?
It's going to look like hell. It's going to be a disaster.
It's going to be martial law.
Chaos.
It's going to be shutting down cities and states and imposing people staying in their homes while Obama gets to stay in office.
But do you think Obama has the cure for himself and all these elites so they don't get it themselves?
Sure they do.
You know, and because they must have taken a drug or a needle or a pill or some kind of things to protect themselves.
Whether there's a vaccine or not, I'm not sure, but the serum certainly is there. And, you know, if they can send it to Africa, you can be sure he got a vial of it. The Pentagon certainly has some of it. You can rest assured of it.
I just wonder, like how long, when someone gets it, how long does it take for them to die?
Anywhere from 10 to 21 days it takes for an incubation period, and it can take 4 or 5 days for them to die.
And from what I've seen, it's horrifying. You bleed everywhere, you melt. It's very, very painful.
Toward the latter, the initial stages of Ebola are very much like any flu. It would be a raised temperature, maybe only as low as 101. You would have all of the signs, the malaise, the fatigue, the sore throat, all of the signs of a typical virus.
Vomiting.
But in its latter stages, you bleed out of every orifice of your body. Your ears bleed, your eyes bleed, your nose bleeds, your mouth bleeds, your tail bleeds. It bleeds everywhere. And eventually, in those that die, their organs turn to mush.
So this sounds like almost demonic.
Oh, this is right out of the pit of hell. There's no doubt about it.
Oh my gosh. That's why we have to pray to Jesus that he comes very soon, you know. I don't know what to say. I mean, it's there.
Well, I think two things, Robert. Prayer, sure, certainly. But number two, get yourself prepared. Put aside supplies so if this thing hits, you get locked in your house or you want to go lock yourself up in your house, you have food to wait this thing out. Those are going to be the people that survive.
The thing is, how long do you think it's gonna? All these scenarios that we're talking about before it comes to Canada, the States, everywhere. How long do you think it's gonna be? The way things are going, in your opinion, Doctor?
It could actually boil over at any time because we've got flights coming in from Africa daily. And like I said, keep in mind the incubation period is usually 4 or 5 days. But it can be as long as 21 days. Now, what does that mean? That means somebody can get on an airplane in Sierra Leone, fly to a couple of capitals of the world, and then come on into New York City. And as soon as he crosses into New York City, he starts running a fever of 101, starts doing a little coughing. Well, guess what? He is contagious at this point. It takes another 4 or 5 days for symptoms to completely mature. So for 4 or 5 days, he is infecting everybody he comes in contact with. And they don't even know it.
And they infect other people.
And they, in turn, infect other people. This is worse than pneumonic plague. Europe was ravaged twice in history that we know of, perhaps 3 times, by pneumonic plague. That is bubonic plague that went to the lungs and could be spread by coughing. But this virus is airborne. It can be spread by breathing, coughing, or being in the same room with somebody who's got it. This is much deadlier and much more contagious
than anything we've ever had. But
that we've ever had.
The thing is, why aren't they shutting off the borders from Africa and all those things? What does it take? You know, I mean,
it must fit some larger plan that you want it to happen. That's all I can say. Nothing makes any sense.
In your opinion, do you think people in the States already are contaminated? They just don't know it yet, or they're hiding it?
To my knowledge, nobody's come forward with anything on the record yet. One person in Romania was just found. So, see, this is my, and he was actually somebody who had traveled from Sierra Leone. So this is it. If they're coming in from Africa, you really need to quarantine them for 21 days, or don't let them in at all.
Does the person in Romania have it, or they just?
Yeah, he has it.
He has it. Okay. So are they going to give him the secret serum, or we don't know?
They say they don't have any more.
Very convenient, eh?
Well, if you want to, you know, like I said, whoever's agenda this is, it looks like they're going to get what they want. So what do we do ourselves? I think we can just prepare for ourselves.
We can't do much.
No.
You know?
And, you know, the other thing that you deal with is, what if a family member gets it? You know, these hospitals are going to be the last place you're going to want to take anybody. They're going to be overwhelmed, for one thing. The healthcare system utterly will be overwhelmed. And all they'll do is actually quarantine people. But with this thing being airborne, you really can't even take care of them at home.
You can't take care of them. You can't go out. It's like the movie Containment when everything was just ravaged. You know, like these movies that they have viruses and everything. You're like you're stuck. You know, and then everybody dies.
Yeah, this is the world's worst nightmare.
I know, because like I said before, without risk of repeating myself, in the 90s I used to research this, and I said, "Oh my God, I'm so glad that this thing is just down there." It's like a nightmare. I didn't even want to know about Ebola, and when I first started hearing about these things right away, it just like my adrenaline shot up, and I go, "No, it can't be," because it's the way it happened. It's the way you die, you know.
Oh, it's horrible. It's a nightmare.
I mean, I'd rather get.
Liberia right now is about to lose civil control.
I mean, I'd rather get shot in the head and die that way than slowing hemorrhaging and fever.
Well, if you're in the streets of Liberia right now, that's a good possibility. There are armed gangs roaming the streets, and they're threatening to burn down hospitals. They've already deployed some troops in Liberia now to try to keep the calm.
Would even burning the hospital, would that even get rid of the Ebola in that hospital?
Oh, it would get rid of Ebola in the hospital, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Ebola is easily killed with bleach, hand sanitizers, fire, certainly. If it gets on a surface, it's easy to kill, like any virus is. But the problem is how easily contagious it is between people.
Would you recommend people start buying hand sanitizers and keeping it on themselves?
Well, I think you could cut down on your flu and colds, your normal things like that, probably by 70 or 80% during a year by doing that.
By having hand sanitizers?
Yeah.
And how many times would we need to use it per day?
Well, let me give you an example of something to think about. Let's talk about some of the things we know, like SARS virus.
Yes.
The SARS virus can live 4 days on a doorknob. Now, when you go in and out of a restaurant or in and out of a public building, how many people sneezed, wiped their noses, or wiped their eyes, or scratched their butt maybe before they opened that door?
Many.
And you're coming right in behind them with your hands, and you're going to walk in there, and if your eyes itch, you're going to itch your eyes. Well, you just infected yourself.
Yeah, the thing is,
Ebola can live 2 days on any surface.
And the thing is, it's like we don't always think about it. Like when we're out, wherever, you know, you're always going to start thinking, oh, if I touch this and I scratch my eye, you know, it's normal human behavior that we're not always going to be thinking of it. But I guess now we have to think twice.
Yeah, all you've got, if there's a virus present, all you have to do is itch your eyes to introduce that virus into your bloodstream. You know, the old saying about washing your hands before you eat and so forth, there's really a lot of truth about that. With today's hand sanitizers, I've been doing this for years. My wife and I, we go eat, we take our hand sanitizer and sit it right there on the table, use it when we come in, use it before we leave, use it again when we get in the truck. And I don't have colds, I don't have flu, I don't have the bugs that other people do. Since I started doing that about 8 years ago, I haven't had it.
No, so that's wonderful, doctor. That's a good trick. I think I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna start doing this. You know, and I'm gonna tell, and hopefully our viewers can do this, because we can't joke around with this Ebola. It's not a joke, folks. It's demonic.
There's some people, and unfortunately the medical profession is buying it. I think they buy, let me tell you how these guys operate, in case you have never thought about it. Once somebody comes through medical school, they have to take continuing education courses, and they'll keep up with things like the New England Journal of Science and this kind of thing. But for the most part, they're really ignorant of new things that are happening. They're concerned with making money. And they sometimes buy into gossip like everybody else does. One of those things they buy into is using these hand sanitizers is going to cause these organisms to become more resistant. Now, that's about as stupid a thing as any doctor could ever say, because alcohol kills all known viruses and bacteria. Now, how is it going to mutate, become worse if it's dead? You could kill cancer with alcohol if you could put alcohol in somebody's body without killing them.
Enough of it. Enough. Yeah. Enough alcohol.
Yeah, alcohol kills germs and viruses, yes. They don't sit around and mutate, become worse when they hit alcohol, they die.
Yeah. Speaking of cures and that, I've read some places, researched some places that colloidal silver could help fight Ebola. Is this true or fake, or just something to make money?
Make money making fake people.
Okay, because the thing
is, anybody that posts anything organic, herbal, that will stop Ebola is lying to themselves, and at the very least ought to be taken out and shot.
Because some of these people are doctors that are saying these things.
No, they're almost witch doctors. They're hope-to-bees. Yeah, colloidal silver, I've seen them make it. Throw a couple of silver coins in a big bucket of water and run some electricity through it and say you've made colloidal silver. You really want to know how much silver content is in that water?
Yeah.
None.
So it would be nothing. It would just be dirty silver water that you'd be drinking.
My guess is if you took every colloidal silver bottle in this country and you actually ran it to a laboratory, you'd find out there was almost no silver in it whatsoever. It's a hoax.
And I don't think it's too good to drink anyways.
Like I said, I used to know somebody that manufactured it.
Okay.
He was laughing the whole time he was doing it. Selling it about a gallon.
So he's just a charlatan. These doctors that say that, they're charlatans.
Yeah, they're charlatans. That's, that goes back. I don't like the FDA because I don't like their stance on narcotics. They keep them away from people who need them. But the FDA had a real place when they came into existence because they stopped some of the charlatan stuff that was going on. And they're still charlatans. I rode by a health food store a couple of years ago, and they had on their door, cure for cancer. And they were talking about cranberry juice. Well, let me tell you what. They ought to be shot. Anybody who's got cancer and is going to go buy all the cranberry juice in the world thinking it's going to cure them, I got news for them. Stupid is as stupid does. You can make a case that nutrition is helpful and plays a part in daily life, but things that are powerful enough to do anything about cancer or viruses, for instance, they're going to be under the domain of the FDA for sure.
I still think that the cancer, they have the cure for cancer, they just don't want to give it because billions of dollars would be lost.
No, I don't think that's true, Robert, because it's a multi-country effort. Israel is trying to find a cure for it. Canada's trying to find a cure for it. And they're all in the race to do it. And the first country that does it is going to have a windfall of profit. You can rest assured.
Well, I hope you're right, and I do hope that they do find a cure for cancers. But the thing is that there's so many of them, different types of cancer. But if
right. Cancer has been eluding a cure because there's so many different types of them. But, you know, my friends over in Israel, if I have faith in any of them, it's in them. And if they get it, they'll make it known to the world. You can rest assured.
I've read somewhere that there's a doctor or somebody in Israel that's actually trying to find a cure for Ebola. I came across that on the internet the other day.
Well, there are 4 companies that have got serums for it. 4 companies across the world that have manufactured a serum for it. And they're not saying anything about 3 of them. So I don't know if it's a matter of they haven't been able to put it into production or exactly where that stands. It may be, you know, some of their production has already been taken in place for the military. I don't know. It's sort of interesting. The only one we've heard of is ZMAP out in California that made some of theirs available. But I do know there's something like 4 different countries in the world working on it that haven't. Now, you know, the degree that they have it where they can send it, I don't know.
And the ZMAP, we don't even, it's just an experimental drug. We don't know if it's actually going to work, if or anything much about it. Like, the 2 doctors that came back from Atlanta, are they cured now, or just have to go through a lot of tests?
They're doing better. I don't think anybody's using the term cure.
No.
This Ebola Zaire is so hideous that once you are, quote, cured of it, and to some people who do live through it, they are still contagious in their sperm for 50 days. And that we know so far.
Yes.
And the question is, are they contagious in other ways that we don't know yet?
Yes, exactly. How these people? How were they saved? Like, how did they? How were they cured to begin with?
Well, there are some people, if they're given it enough support with electrolytes and fluids and antibiotics to take care of any other
infection.
Infection that might come along that is just looking for something to be there. Some 10% or 15% will pull through, and they have used some of their blood as you know, for victims of it, and that has also been effective. You know, evidently the blood has built up antibodies, but the people in the know are saying that this is great, but this only works for Ebola Zaire. They wouldn't have an immunity to the other 4 strains of it if they were to hit.
So this serum is just for Ebola Zaire?
Right. As far as we know, they've only got it available for Ebola Zaire.
Now for our viewers, what do the other strains do? What kind of effects? Is it the same type of effects, or is there anything different from Zaire?
No, the 3 other strains are the same as Ebola Zaire, just really depending on where they originally came from.
Okay.
The other strain is a strain in monkeys in the Philippines, but it doesn't seem to be affecting people. Now, by the way, I need to tell you another little interesting fact about Ebola, whether it's Zaire or Sierra Leone or whichever strain it is. Your animals, such as your dogs, are capable of catching it as well.
So it's almost like we can't have any pets also, because we don't know if our pets would have it.
Well, if this thing hits America, what we're going to need to do is quarantine ourselves. Don't even wait for the government to do that. And that's why I'm on the air tonight. I'm hoping some people will listen. Go buy some MREs, go buy some water, and when this thing hits, just lock yourself up inside and give this thing time to burn through the country and let them isolate what they will, and the government will bring in martial law, and that probably will never change, but at least you will have missed this particular shot.
Oh yeah, so but the thing with all this is it's very scary, and people don't like they won't do this. Like they'll wait till the last minute and panic about it. They won't prevent. When it hits, then they're gonna start panicking, and you're gonna be seeing all kinds of chaos, because that's how most people are.
unfortunately, Robert, I think you're right. What I'm running into is I'm writing articles on it, and a few people, like, well, I won't name their names, but a few larger websites have picked up my articles and evidently gained something from it and are starting to write about it. But your major news outlets are just holding the government line.
Oh, yes.
You know, that is only can be transmitted by touch, and that just is not true. You know, if it hits here, and this is what makes this thing so dangerous, is if you're contagious in an airport, think of how many people you can infect and how many countries you can affect at one time.
The thing is, do you know if there's any plans for them to shut down the flights from there until this thing blows over?
Not that I know of. That's why I say they've almost got to have some kind of hidden agenda on this thing. Common sense says you to shut down the flights already.
Unless, could it be that they have a vaccine for it, and they're just going to give everybody the vaccine, they'll make money off that, and it'll be the end of the Ebola?
Now, the powers that be, I don't think that way, because that's more like private enterprise. If you've got the vaccine, sure, that's great for you. You make a lot of money. If the government doesn't come in and take over your operations, which they're more than likely to do under the name of assistance, the only thing the higher ups could wish for would be the chaos that would ensure, like I said, Obama cannot get another term legally, and I think yet he wants another term. So I think he's looking for an opportunity. This would give it to him.
And how about if the economy collapses? That also would give him an opportunity.
Well, it would, and you can certainly be assured if it comes into California and they quarantine California, that's going to affect our economy. You know, just one state being quarantined would be enough to declare martial law.
And imagine, like, in a city like New York, where there's millions of people. I mean,
it would be a nightmare.
I mean, I don't even want to think. You know, I don't even want to think about it, especially with it being airborne. I would not even want to think about it. I wouldn't want to even see a movie about that. And this is not even a movie. This is reality.
All right. I got a question for you, and I want you to think about this.
Sure.
At the National Institutes of Health, and I'll even give you the article number, PMC 3498927. They took 4 pigs and marsupials, separated them totally, and proved that Ebola Zaire transfers in the air. Now, what if you take an infected person who's coughing his guts out and you bring him into the Empire State Building near an air conditioning duct? Does that mean that he's going to spread Ebola throughout that entire superstructure?
I would believe so.
All right, now you see the nightmare.
It's just I believe it would be chaotic. Just a nightmare scenario.
All right, now hospitals operate on the same thing. Their air systems are not filtered. You go into a normal hospital ward, it's connected with all the other in the air conditioning and return ducts. The only way that you can contain this thing is a level 4. That means that the room pressure is negative to the outside. So it means nothing comes out of the room. You go in the room, you wear a positive pressure suit. And, you know, we just don't have enough of those in this country. We would certainly be overwhelmed, just without question.
Dr. CK, how many hours do you spend on researching this per day?
A couple hours a day.
Isn't there a website? I thought I seen a website where they show where the Ebola is striking, like in Africa.
think that's Health Med. It's a map that shows what's active and going on at the moment. But I have questions about that because the little country of Benin, I think it's Benin in Africa, it's just a little country.
Ben, yes.
Has recently reported cases of it, and I don't think they're showing on there. So again, I don't think we're being told the whole truth.
So do you think it's gonna? The way I see it is, in my opinion, it's gonna get quiet and then it's gonna hit again, like in a couple of weeks or months.
No, I think it's in full force, and what's happened is, like I said, the vector here. First of all, the initial vector was probably a bat, from what they're thinking now. The initial
bat.
A bat. Although they found the virus and other things, marsupials and so forth, in the wild, but they think it's comes from a bat, and they tracked it to a 2-year-old, and they think this 2-year-old possibly ate fruit that a bat had doopied on. But the vector now has changed. When it got into populated areas, the vector becomes people. And people are contaminating people because of aerosol or air-to-air contact. So this thing is going to do nothing but burn until it gets bigger and bigger. And the only way to fight this thing is to quarantine it. And that's my question. These airports need to be shut off. Anybody coming from anywhere in Africa needs to be quarantined for 21 days. In fact, North Carolina just recently passed legislation. You remember Samaritan's Purse is in North Carolina.
Yes.
They just passed legislation requiring anybody coming from Africa, West Africa, to be quarantined for 21 days. Now, if North Carolina in its legislature can be that smart, how come our government can't be?
Yeah, it must be because they have, like you said, like some kind of hidden agenda or something.
They've got a hidden agenda. They evidently want this thing to burn over here.
But obviously it won't affect them.
Well, no, you can be sure that the high-ups in the government won't be affected.
They won't catch this thing. Do you think it's going to go global or just the states?
I think it has the ability to go global. It can go to, it's in Romania. Anywhere these airlines are going, it can go. And, you know, once it hits the airports here in America, I mean, you know, we have flights to everywhere.
Same thing in Canada.
Yeah, it's just going to go global.
North America. And I think what's scary about it is, you know, when winter comes, like in December, well, November, December, whenever, people are going to have colds, and they might actually have the Ebola virus. They'll just be thinking it's a flu, it's a cold, and the 21 days, and then they'll infect people within those 21 days, and then they won't know about it, and then they'll infect more people, and then it could cause like a big domino effect.
That's possible. The only thing that might mitigate that is the Ebola Zaire virus seems to be contained more to warm climates. So the virus may not like the cold. It may have some ability to stop its regeneration.
Okay, so yes, that's what I meant to ask you, Dr. Quarterman. That means in the cold climates, it might not actually affect people.
It may not spread in cold climates, yeah.
Okay, especially where...
Or I should say it might not be as pandemic in cold climates because it originated in hot semi-tropical areas, and it seems to prefer that.
Exactly. So, so maybe there is some kind of hope of some kind. In closing, Dr. Quarterman, is there anything you would like to add to this Ebola that we haven't discussed or anything?
Well, I would like to see those who are awakened start contacting their congressmen and their senators and asking them why the state of North Carolina is quarantining anybody coming from Africa, and seems to have enough sense to do that, why are we not stopping flights to Africa or quarantining people coming from Africa? I think if we could get enough representatives and senators asking that question, we might could get these borders closed off and keep this thing from happening.
Exactly. Well, time will tell what's going to happen with all of this. I mean, it's a very, very scary thought. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been watching videos on the internet of people having this, and they're all like in quarantine in Africa, and you have these doctors going in and helping these patients, but they're probably infecting themselves if because it's airborne also. Like it's very scary. Don't they know it?
Well, they're being lied to by the CDC, the government, the AMA. I mean, they're all lying and saying that it's not airborne. And the poor doctors are not going back to the National Institutes of Health and even reading their own studies.
Because soon they get infected and they might die themselves also.
Well, I think it proves that there's more information out there than even doctors can swallow up. The question I've got is, why are not more people seeing these reports at the National Institutes of Health and raising the question?
Exactly. Well, there is a hidden agenda and money talks, so maybe if you follow the money, it'll lead to who's ever behind all of this. Like why they don't want to shut off the borders and everything.
Well, like I said, the only agenda that I can think of is it would allow Obama, if he's able to declare martial law, and this would give him a reason to do that if it hits here, he wouldn't have to give up power. He could continue playing golf every week. And
if it hits globally, we're basically all messed up. The whole world will be messed up.
And, you know, that brings in what people talk about the globalists and this kind of thing. And I don't know about all that, but, you know, when I see I just look at the simple questions. Why are we not doing this? I really don't know the reasons. But I think some people, you know, some senators and congressmen need to start asking the White House, why are we not closing off the borders? And why are we being lied to about this thing being airborne?
Exactly.
And the average person can do that. Just pick up the phone and call your congressman.
Yeah, so folks, you hear that. Call your congressman and find out why they're not doing this. And maybe if enough people can do this, maybe there'll be some kind of working like that. This can happen. People will wake up and they'll put enough pressure that this can happen. Because these airports and between airports and hospitals, these are places these days you don't want to be too much in.
No, and they'll remember there is an article at the National Institutes of Health in 2012, that's 2 years ago, that proved that Ebola is airborne. And they can point their congressman to that.
Exactly.
You know, and I don't know why the CDC, of all people, are not looking at that study and saying, oh, that's what's going on here.
Exactly. Well, we're just about out of time, Dr. Quarterman. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Sure.
And you're welcome. And we want to have you back on soon to talk about different, maybe Ebola or something different, because you're an author, and we're going to put your website up on the links, and we're going to have you back on very soon to talk about different types of stuff.
All right, Robert. Thank you, buddy.
You're welcome, and we'll talk soon again, Dr. Quarterman. It's a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you. Good night.
Yes, Robert. That's it for that's it.
It was a great show, and it's very scary, folks. I mean, what the New World Order is planning is not good, and we know that they're behind this. And another thing too, I want to add before we end the show is that in the Illuminati cards there is a pandemic card that says that something big is going on, and maybe they're playing the Ebola card, they're playing the pandemic card, and Ebola could be it. But this is airborne, folks, and we're gonna monitor this. Call the congressman, call whoever you want to call, whoever needs to be, but the airports should be shut down. The same goes for Canada, folks. We've got to do something. We can't waste time.
Yep, that's it.
So until next week, God bless you all, and thank you for joining MNR Live TV. Good night, everybody.
Yes, stay tuned. Stay tuned to look at us next week. We'll be back with more MnRTV Live Show. Have a good night, everybody.